Yo, what's up, everybody? Hitman BK, and we have a video, making a video, obviously, and it's gonna be over the Suicide Squad Q&A that just happened. It just finished. There were a couple of good questions. I'm just gonna give you guys clip notes and run through everything that happened. If you've enjoyed the channel and you've been coming here for the new Suicide Squad, make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment. I always will try to answer all comments, and join the Filthy Casual Club if you want. Come hang out with us over at Discord. We're a chill group. I'm pretty chill, if you can't tell. All right. All right. Let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Dev Q&A over on Discord. We learned some stuff about Endgame, y'all. Let's talk. All right, I'm gonna hide myself. I'm just gonna go right into here. This is the Discord channel. This is kind of like what it looked like. They kicked it off basically talking over who each of the devs were, and then kicking off the questions. So we had Ian Ball, the design director, Alex, the game director, and Johnny Armstrong, the associate design director, who came into this Q&A today. It was very good. It's always nice to see these. I always love it when game developers come in and get involved with their community. I think it's really important. So the first question was, what was the funnest part of designing squad members? Let me get up here so you guys can see. What was the funnest part of designing the squad members for the devs? This is a whatever question. This is a lot of marketing speak too in it. Obviously, we all know, they basically break down how each person traverses. It's a pretty boring question, in my opinion. I get why it was asked, though, and I can understand why they picked it, right? So they say they wanted each character's traversal to be as unique as their personalities, right? So Harley's going to occupy this mid-height space while she grapples and swings her way through dangerous situations. Boomerang is the closest to the ground and your up-close and personal guy. He's very fast. He can throw his boomerang and basically teleport everywhere. Shark is presenting that mix of up-close and personal with his super leaps and air dashes. And then, of course, Deadshot is hovering over the battlefield and picking people off like that sniper, right? So they kind of, honestly, I think, give too much of an answer here, because it would have been great to get more questions in, but that's just my opinion. The next question was the mention about the build possibilities in game, and they elaborate on the possibility of builds. This seems to be a huge part of the game. This seems to be kind of like where they're really leaning into. That's what I got out of this Q&A. I think they're really pulling from Borderlands. In my opinion, this game is pulling a lot from Borderlands, and that is in making its longevity built around build possibilities. And to this question, they had said that is a most excellent question, and that they obviously wanted to build around player's choice. And the way builds are going to work is you have your gear and the 8 loadout slots. You also have afflictions, which you will put on your melee weapons and your grenades. Those afflictions are Deep Freeze, Diablo Blaze, Livewire Bolt, and Venom Frenzy. And then you have the character's talent tree, which will be the backbone of each character, right? Harley is going to be your acrobatic explosion character. Deadshot's your precise critical hit counter talents. Shark is that like tank, and Boomerang is a more all-around character built a lot around, honestly, control, in my opinion, based on what I played. And then you obviously have the character's travel mechanics, which factor into those builds. They said that each character and it's basically, they said it's a long way of saying there's a lot of depth for people to explore, especially in Endgame, on how to master the game and change up the way you play. They gave a couple of examples of some builds here. One was called the Great Suspender, which sounds kind of fun, actually. It's you're going to use a melee weapon that launches enemies into the air in slow motion, pair it with a slow and steady, which is a grenade that launches enemies into the air in slow motion. And then there is a weapon called the Turkey Shoot, which actually guarantees crit hits and enemies in slow motion. So you can kind of see how you can like set everything up, use the Turkey Shoot to get crit hits on everyone who's stuck in the air in slow motion. And they said there's extra ways to make that shine, right? With going with something called Dr. Crits, which is an item that regenerates shield on crit hits. Or the Hit and Run, which is an item that gives traversal attack resources on crit hits, right? So you can kind of see how builds in this work up. And this bang one they've talked about before and I've seen, which is a grenade. It's a grenade that does 500% bonus damage, but you only get one of them because it's so powerful. But you can actually pair it with a bullet-propelled grenade firearm, which drops a live grenade on crit hits, alongside the exploding Grace Traversal mod, which will drop a live grenade when you do a skilled landing, a ground bounce or a ground slide. So it gives you 2 ways to drop a free bang grenade. And most pair this with the Prison Pinata melee weapon, which actually drops grenade ammo on shield harvesting kills. So you can kind of see how that gets pretty wacky. So that's pretty cool. And tied to that, they actually, someone asked, like, so it's one of the first big questions, in my opinion, that we got out of this is there a tier above Notorious? The answer, I think, is really no. But yes, Notorious is like the exotic version of weapons from my understanding of it. So in the way that rarities in this game work are there's common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, Notorious, and infamy sets. Infamy sets, though, I think are tied to gear sets. So I don't think there's a level actually above Notorious for weapons. But I could be wrong, because obviously they say yes, infamy. But since they say infamy sets, it makes me think that might be tied more towards gear. Common to epic is going to increase in power and the number of possible augments available. Legendary, notorious, and infamous is when they really get crazy, right? So every legendary item in the game will have a unique augment that changes the way you play, like the Cooler, which is a sniper rifle that will freeze enemies on crit hit, or the Combo Meal Firearm, which gives you max combo on a successful critical encounter, or the Bang Grenade, right, which lets you only carry 1 grenade but does 500% more damage. Those are all legendary items. Infamy sets are going to be brutally powerful sets of gear. These sets will be themed around some of the most iconic and threatening villains in the DC universe. And they actually, I think, explain what one of those will look like further down here when we get to in-game stuff. These gain unique effects the more pieces of the set that you have equipped, and are designed to do synergies with legendary Notorious gear. And Notorious gear is some of the rarest and, in his opinion, coolest items in the game. They're all themed after DC villains, both in how they look and their gameplay effects. And they completely change the way you play, often requiring you to build around them. So this is already really cool. This is why I was talking about how I think this game, when we keep talking about Avengers, is more feature complete. It's a looter shooter, and they've already got the general concept down of like providing chaseable loot that makes fundamental gameplay changes for you, which is big, right? I mean, we all want to have like really nice builds we can do. I'll turn this back on. And things we can hunt for to change the way we play. So that's pretty big. And they say too here, right, that in game, your builds will most likely look like a mix of legendary and notorious and infamous sets to deck out your members. One of the core design philosophies of the game was to create a gear system that doesn't linearly increase in power and have a clear path to an optimal item. That it does not do that. Their core philosophy is to create items that have wild and game-changing effects that must be actively engaged with to find the most powerful strategies and overcome the toughest encounters. That is a really good philosophy, in my opinion, for a looter shooter, because it provides diversity. And again, this is where I'm saying it really feels like they're pulling from Borderlands. So in that spirit, that one of the biggest changes they actually made. So this sounds like one of the reasons they might have even delayed the game, which is funny because a lot of people said that they delayed the game because they didn't want to make this game and they wanted to make a Superman game and blah, 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 blah. That's clearly not what happened. It seems like they delayed the game to remove gear score from the game, which I think was a great idea. And this change meant that players and this is why, they explain why I think this is a great idea right here. This change means that if you find a legendary weapon early in the game and you love it, you can keep that weapon and use it without fear of falling behind because there's no gear score tied to this. The challenge became then how do you explore growth with that? And they seem to have figured out that. And that's going to be exploring how you want to play the game and find gear that synergizes with that, right? So you're going to lean into changing the way you play the game to get the most out of the gear you have. And a big part of the end game is theory crafting which gear pieces synergize and how to construct builds. So you'll find something really cool and you'll want to synergize around it, which will push you to farm for something else. In theory, it's a really good idea because it'll constantly keep you growing. You might get like some crazy new sniper and be like, oh my God, I really want to use this, but it doesn't work with my gear set. So then all of a sudden you've got like a whole thing you're changing up, right? So that's really cool. Are there any plans past characters reaching max level? This was a good question too, like a prestige system. So you will have level 30. Level 30 is the max level here. You will have 3 talent trees for each character. This is very Borderlandsy, with 10 tiers within each tree. And then once you actually reach level 30, you will unlock squad talents. And squad talents are a shared group of upgrades between all of your squad members, regardless of their level. There are a lot of these. And for squad levels, they are actually infinite and there's no real level cap. So you're going to be able to freely respec squad talents the same as regular talents at almost any time. They add yet another layer of customized ability for different playstyles and builds. But where talent trees are going to provide you with more game and playstyle defining traits, squad levels are geared more towards specializations. So I'm thinking like more crit hit chance, more like, really putting abilities and points into your playstyle, which is great. And on top of that, each squad member level counts towards your total squad levels, right? So the higher the squad level, the more squad talents are available. So essentially what that means is there's a really good reason to go and take all of your characters to level 30, right? Because the additional squad, which right here, they say that if you level up all of your characters, you get additional squad levels really quickly. And that, of course, also applies to the characters we add post-launch. So that could be a really good system and reason to continue to play beyond, right, just level 30. The next question was about movement and what the process was like in balancing that. I'm skipping this. This was, in my opinion, a nonsense question. I wish it was never asked. Clearly, each person has a different moveset. Clearly, they try to balance it, and they feel like it feels great. And they even had like a little banter back and forth on who has the best movement, which in my opinion is definitely Boomerang, with Harley Quinn as a close second. The next question after that was, can you swap characters anytime in game? You can swap characters when you are out of combat. In a 2-player session, you each will be able to swap to one of the bots. In a 3-player session, the session owner can switch. And in a 4-player session, you all can switch if you go to the Hall of Justice. You'll have to go to the Hall of Justice to switch that. So there you go. If you're playing single player, there is a bonus system for people who are playing single player. It's called Psyched Up feature. So you'll be playing the game. Their example was the Penguin mission. You'll see it. It'll say, this is only if you're a single player. You'll see it say Boomerang is psyched up to do this because he has history with Penguin. So you could then essentially play in single player, play as Boomerang. And when you do that, since he is a psyched up member, he will do extra damage, he will take less damage, and he will gain a massive XP boost from the mission. So it's kind of a fun way if you're solo, putting you into these buckets to play different characters to see how they play as you progress through the campaign, while also earning really good XP towards them if you're one of those people who are going to rank all of your characters up to 30. The next question after that was, will there be free roam and collectibles? Which is, in my opinion, another like, why? Of course there will be. And the answer is yes, there will be free roam. And there will be side missions. There will be enemies patrolling the city. There will be iconic Metropolis landmarks, plenty of hidden Easter eggs for you to find, and the Riddler is back. He is pissed that he wasn't recruited to join the Suicide Squad, which I think is hilarious. So he wants to test you by proving his superior intellect. And there will be things such as AR courses to test your prowess and travel, which is really cool because if you do these, you'll actually be rewarded with some free outfit pieces, which is great. Riddles will be back to test your knowledge of the DCU, and the trophies are back. So Riddler confirmed back, a lot of fun. And I found that out in the alpha as well. We did some of them. They were fun. Will we see environment changes as the seasons progress? This one has a very good and enticing answer in the second sentence. It's most definitely. This is something they knew they wanted to do from the start to keep Metropolis evolving along with our players. This is the big one for me, though. And seeing how Brainiac has the ability to phase in portions of other worlds. This is cool. This is pretty cool, y'all. You can talk about the game all you want, but clearly there is a very big roadmap for the next year, and that is including other worlds. And on top of that, Metropolis is going to be a constantly shifting battlefield. And as your battle with Brainiac and the Justice League progresses, you can expect the city to change along with it, not only across the duration of the story, but also post-launch. And that was a very important thing for the dev team, to be able to create a city that you could experience, enjoy, and learn the best routes through, and then switch things up on everybody so that the next time you go in, there may be things that you used to navigate that aren't there anymore. Great. This is fantastic. This is great. This means there's like a really well thought out post launch plan full of new biomes and characters. Yes, please. Let's see, what's the next one? The next one was, there were some rumors going around that if you weren't on, your friends could pick your character and take them with them and then get mission loot and experience points. So they kind of explain this. It's called Social Squad. Social Squad is going to be when you are playing alone and you're not planning on playing certain members of the squad, you can replace those squad members with those of other players, and they can be anyone. They don't just have to be your friends. You can actually go to the leaderboards and find the best players in the world and get your characters and get those characters into your squad. Or they even said like it could be your favorite streamer. So you could pull Caboose or Lejeune or one of those guys' characters and play with them. And then what's going to happen is when that's happened, the original owners, you'll pull in them and everything they have equipped. And then once the owners get back to their game, they're going to get a kickback that their characters were used in someone else's squad, and they will receive a small portion of the resources and loot you've earned. This is going to be separate from the rewards that you earned personally. So you don't really take everything, but when your character gets used, you will get some XP resources and loot from that. So that's honestly really cool. And then the final question was, what will endgame be like? So this is an interesting one. This is a big one for everybody. It was a big one for me. I'm not going to say this actually answered the question that it's going to be worth returning to. I think he tried to do a really good job explaining a complex system here. And it's okay. I love live service games. This is a personal thing. I don't necessarily chase builds, and it really does seem like they are really pulling from that Borderlands-y chase of like copious amounts of building, like Diablo, almost like an ARPG, where you have just tons and tons and tons of builds and theory crafting to do. I don't always participate in that, but I know a lot of people do. But so if you're a fan of that, it really seems like that's what they've leaned into. And that's even what he said. Their core philosophy for the end game is mastery. It's going to be mastery of your character, traversal talents, enemy types, mission mechanics, and of course, your choice of build. As the difficulty increases, you're going to find new builds to overcome that challenge. So big build game here. What are we doing and why are we doing that? They do have an answer here. It seems like they said that's why they have 3 distinct tiers of infamy sets in the end game, all themed around an iconic DC character. For launch, the character is Bane, and his infamy sets are all themed around different ways of dominating your enemies and harnessing the chaos around you. That's kind of marketing speak. It doesn't really say much about what the hell it's doing, but that's pretty cool. So you know that's what you're chasing, and how are you chasing that, and how are you earning it? They said there will be several types of missions. One of them is called an incursion mission, where you are sent into Brainiac's domain under the protection of a Promethean shield that protects you from the Skull Ship's tentacles, as well as the full force of Brainiac's army. The squad will have to fight their way through Brainiac's forces, often with the help of the support squad, and then make it back to Metropolis. So once the mission is completed, it seems like the shield goes down and you have to kind of like escape. So these are like balls to the wall missions with an escapes thing at the end there, which I'm guessing probably sounds really fun. On the way it reads is weird, but that's one of the missions. And then the next one is Killing Time. This is essentially a wave-based mission. It's the squad will be battling increasingly frantic hordes of Brainiac's enemies, and they have to keep killing them to fuel the Promethean shield, because once the shield goes down, there's no hiding from the Skull Ship's tentacles. I'm guessing the Skull Ship's tentacles are like an insta-kill, so once it's up, you're done. And as the difficulty goes up on these, so do the rewards. And they, quite frankly, have insane infamy sets and notorious items that are earned from the highest tiers of endgame. That paired with global leaderboards for solo, 2-player, 3-player, 4-player groups mean there's plenty of friendly competition to go around. And if you want some tips on how to build your character, the leaderboards will be a good place to scout around. So there's some things here that I like and I don't like. That's it, by the way. That was all the questions. One, this incursion mission sounds fun. I don't think it's explained very well, but on paper it sounds fun. That's all I can say about that. Killing Time is just wave-based. Those can get monotonous. I guess we'll see on how fun it is. I'm not a huge fan of wave-based missions, but it's in there. And then I wish they would have mentioned something about, I think Miller once leaked that there was a PvP thing in the lieu of like Gambit. It's not mentioned here, so we don't know if that's actually in the game. There's no mention of raids, which I'm beginning to think there won't be. I don't think Borderlands has raids. I think Borderlands has a very similar system of like mission farming for better gear to increase your builds, which I never participated in because again, I don't do that kind of stuff. But if these incursion missions are fun, I could see myself farming those. I hope there's something hidden here. I hope there is like the PvP thing Miller had discussed, or maybe there is like some cool dungeon to farm, because that kind of system is more my jam, especially since I'm a big Destiny player. But these sound interesting, and I like that the higher the ranking is, the better the chances we have of getting really high-end gear. That's good, because that's the carrot, right? So we have the proverbial carrot to chase and a reason to do these. And if they feel good, especially these horde missions, they feel good, and especially with buds, like I'll play that all day if it's fun. This last paragraph I wasn't a fan of. I'm not a fan of like this idea of like global leaderboards. That's not incentive for me to play. And it sucks that it was mentioned, because it's clear it was built into the game as a way, as like an incentive to continue to play, to compete on a leaderboard. There are people who love that. I'm all for it. It's not my jam. That's like my negatives to this. My positives are definitely that they have a carrot, they have modes. I doubt they mentioned everything, so maybe there is a hidden PvP thing here we don't know about, or even a raid. Who knows? Hopefully there's maybe one or two more things they're keeping close to their chest. But the fact that we have these like really game-altering gear sets is really cool, because that will provide reasons to keep playing, and a reason to like want to farm these missions and do them on a higher difficulty and try to build, right? Because the question is, why should I build a crazy build? Well, it's to do these incursion missions at the highest level possible to get the really good gear, right? I'm thinking like Diablo. You want to build to beat Duriel, to get the uber uniques, and you actually want to use uber uniques to build yourself even more, so you can just like farm Duriel with no problem. And then you had eventually, higher stuff to go into, which clearly could happen here in the seasons. So that's it, y'all. That's what we got out of this. Some big things to come out of this are, we've got a snippet now on the end game. We know they've put some thought into this. We know there's the loot chase sounds on paper really good. So the next thing up is the third insider, which should talk more, I think, about post game, which I'm looking forward to. Hopefully maybe they'll show some of these incursion missions or what these killing time things look like. I think it's really hard to deduce this into a paragraph, which is why it reads weird, but I'm all about it. This sounds fun. I played it and I know it's fun, so I know it plays well. The gear chase sounds like it's there, which is great. It's only going to be added upon in the seasons. So we've got all the ingredients, and now it's just about making the cake. I can't wait for this game to come out and we all get to play it. So again, if you liked everything here and you want to maintain and keep up with the channel, make sure you guys like and subscribe. Comment on what you thought about this Q&A. What are your thoughts? Are you excited for those modes? Are you excited to hear about the infamy sets and the way gear is going to work, and how the social squatting system works? I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of that. Thank you so much for hanging out. Until next time, I'm Hitman BK, and guys just stay awesome, okay? Catch you next time.